Hi, we are Group 6 want to present about effectiveness of the enforcement of EIA acts and regulations in Malaysia. Background of study: EIA in Malaysia is meant to control environmental impact before projects begin. It is enforced under the Environmental Quality Act 1974 and EIA Order 2015. But issues like pollution and deforestation still happen. Experts say EIA is weak due to poor monitoring, weak enforcement, and political influence. Agency also lack of staff and skill, so stronger EIA enforcement is needed as Malaysia develops. Next, problem statement. Malaysia has strong environmental law, but problems like pollution and deforestation still increase. Some projects approved through EIA are poorly monitored, while others ignore EIA rules completely. Enforcement face weak institutions, lack of skilled workers, and bureaucracy. Low public involvement and political interference also make it worse. As Malaysia grows, especially in sensitive areas, EIA enforcement needs urgent review. Without proper action, it risks failing sustainable development goals. Next objective. First, the purpose of this study is to assess the efficiency of regulation enforcement in Malaysia. Second, to identify obstacles faced by enforcement authorities. And third objective is the purpose of this study to assess the efficiency of EIA regulation enforcement in Malaysia.
I will briefly present the literature review on the effectiveness of EIA enforcement in Malaysia. Study shows that Malaysia has a solid legal framework for environmental impact assessment, mainly under the Environmental Quality Act 1974. However, enforcement remained weak due to limited resource and the manpower as noted by Yahaya 2018. Hassan and Ali 2020 highlight a gap between EIA approval and actual project impact, showing a lack of proper monitoring after project approval. In terms of governance, the World Bank 2019 point out of poor transparency and minimal public participation, which further weakens in process. Next, compared to countries like Philippines, Malaysia's centralized system lacks community involvement. In contrast, decentralized approaches there have led to more effective local monitoring. And in conclusion, the literature agrees the transparency and compatibility and community involvement are key to improving EIA enforcement in Malaysia.
Now I will explain the method of getting information for this study. Firstly is document review. We conducted a thorough review of several official documents, including Environmental Impact Assessment or EIA reports, enforcement records from the Department of Environment, which is DOE, and legal cases related to non-compliance with EIA requirement. This method helped us evaluate how well the EIA legislation is being implemented in practice. It also allowed us to identify recurring issues and weaknesses in the current system. Secondly is interview. We carry out semi-structured interviews with individuals who have direct experience with the EIA process. This included DOE officers, environmental consultants, representatives from NGO, and members of local community affected by development projects. Through this interview, we gained valuable insight into the enforcement challenges, the importance of public participation, and the institutional limitations that affect the overall effectiveness of EIA enforcement in Malaysia.
Case study. To better understand EIA enforcement on the ground, we analyzed 3 controversial development projects in Malaysia. This case study include the Lynas Rare Earth Plant, illegal forest clearing in Pahang, and the Pening Salt Reclamation Project. Each case relieves critical enforcement issues such as a weak monitoring, political interference, and limited community involvement. Through this example, we saw how EIA regulations are often not effectively followed or enforced despite being clearly outlined. The last method is literature review. We review academic study, government report and media sources to identify a common challenge in EIA enforcement. Requiring problems include poor monitoring, limited institutional capacity and weak public engagement. We also compare Malaysia's system with other Asian countries like the Philippines, which benefit from more community-based enforcement. The literature review confirmed that Malaysia EIA law strong in theory but face serious implement issue in practices. More importantly, the study stressed the need for better government and meaningful public participation to improve enforcement outcome.
Malaysia EIA system is governed by strong legislation. However, it is not practiced. DOE has limited staff for post-EIA monitoring. Although penalties exist, they are rarely imposed. Challenges in implementing monitoring such as insufficient staff and technical capacity in DOE. Second, political interference in project approval. And lastly, weak interagency coordination.
Public participation is a vital part of the environmental impact assessment process. Although the EIA report are made available for public viewers, the actual level of engagement is often quite limited. Many local, especially from Southern, lack awareness and technical understanding, resulting in low participation and weak accountability. Let's look at the three cases that reflects issue in EIA enforcement in Malaysia. First, the Lynas Rare Earth plant in Pahang was approved despite the strong public opposition and protests. This raised concern about political influence and lack of transparency in the EIA process. Next, we have the illegal forest clearance in Pahang. Even though EIA conditions were clearly stated, but the Department of Environment failed to enforce them. This shows weak enforcement, especially when it comes to protect forests from illegal logging. Lastly, the Pening Salt Reclamation Project was approved despite a strong objective of environmentalists. Local communities were also criticized for being minimal and ineffective, showing the public voice were not meaningfully considered in the final decision.
For the conclusion, enforcement of the EIA process remains moderately effective due to weak institutional capacity, limited transparency and minimal public involvement. Despite existing legal mechanism, political interference and selective enforcement reduce their effectiveness. To improve, authority should strengthen institutional capacity through better training, staffing and funding, raise penalty for non-compliance, and enhance transparency and accountability to encourage broader stakeholder and community participation and to support environmental sustainability.